Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to the Orientation to Texas Pathways number 5. Thank you so very much for being with us today. This is the orientation to our April event, which is entitled Keeping Students on Their Pathway. You'll be hearing from 3 of us today on this webinar, and of course we welcome your Q&A. Feel free to use the chat, and then we'll also have a Q&A at the end. I am Cynthia Farrow, Vice President of the Texas Success Center. And you'll also be hearing today from Christine Bailey, who is our Director of Institutional Strategy at the Success Center, and beloved Dr. Martha Ellis, who is our Senior Pathways Lead here at the center as well. So with that, I'm going to jump in and let you know what it is we're going to be covering during this webinar. First of all, this welcome and a little overview of touching base with our overall strategy. And then we will overview the Pathways Institute itself and its agenda. We are going to review the advanced work that you're going to be doing between now and the Institute. And then, of course, we'll hold time for question and answers, particularly about the focus group assignment that you all are going to be doing. But before we jump in, a couple things I want to do, particularly feeling a lot of gratitude towards a lot of folks this morning. And so I just wanted to take a second to show our gratitude to the funding partners that make all of this possible. You may not know, but since the center was established in 2013, we have raised $19 million and 96% of that has gone towards services for your colleges. So all of the institutes and paying for your folks to come to institutes and all of that, all provided by very gracious funders. So we're grateful to them. I'm also very grateful to this lovely, lovely team that I get to work with. So I wanted to flash their faces up so you could see them. You'll see them again at the Institute, but also so that everyone recognizes names. If you see emails from these folks, you know they're coming from this fabulous lean, mean machine, the Texas Success Center team. We also have some really great opportunity to partner with some really smart people. So Martha Ellis, you know, is our Senior Pathways Lead. We're also working with Andre Alcantar, the former commissioner of the Texas Workforce Commission. Tamara Clunas is also working with us, particularly focusing on adult and developmental education and how that plays out in our strategy. And Stacy Ybarra, who is a research assistant and really helping us produce a lot of good knowledge development and research. So those are some other folks that are working with us. Special thanks goes out to our coaches. Thank you so much for being on the line with us today. They work so hard on your behalf and for your students' behalf. So I just want to share a special thank you to all of the coaches that are working with us. So with that, just touching base then with our Pathways framework. It is a framework that has endured time. It was built in a way that gave us enough freedom and flexibility to be able to play out over multiple institutions over multiple years. And so we see it here again today. We're sticking with our same direction that we've been headed before, that using the systemic whole college reform so that we can reach learners from multiple entry points and help them get to their end goals. We have emphasized in the past high school graduates that we are particularly interested in making sure that high school students take the right dual credit so that they don't start piling up their excess credits even before they get to us. But we also have expanded the conversation to talk more about adults in our communities, maybe those who have a GED or need a GED, or those who have some college but no degree, and also adults who have found themselves unemployed, especially during this pandemic. So we reach out to all different kinds of folks in our communities. We always have, but now our model better represents what we're doing. And then you know that we have our essential practices that connect, enter, progress, and succeed, that students can connect, enter, progress, and succeed. And then at the other end, that they can earn careers, not just any careers, but careers that have a living wage. They have opportunity to come back to us and earn more credentials without losing credit or time. And then some of them also transfer to four-year institutions. So we are continuing to stay true to this framework. In particular, in this institute, you'll find that we're going to be talking about how we're keeping students on their pathway. And so this is from our pillars, but it really is cross-cutting across all of the different milestones in a student's progress across our framework. So when we look at the 4 pillars of our work, these are exactly the same as we've always had, and we're making good progress on scaling these. In particular, this institute will focus in on pillar number 3, keeping students on their path. You can see there some of the topics that we're going to be emphasizing during this upcoming institute. I just want to add one note that if you haven't taken a chance at your bragging rights about the work that you have been doing, I want to encourage you to do so. If you look at the key performance indicators, you'll see that as a state, statewide data shows statistically significant progress across 7 out of 8 of the early momentum measures. You should be going to the dashboard that is on the Texas Success Center site and looking for your college compared to the statewide average and start bragging about the work that you all are doing, because it is significant and you are beginning to close gaps. So with that, I would just like to then turn to Christine Bailey and ask, would you please overview the Texas Pathways Institute number 5?
Thank you so much, Cynthia. It is a pleasure to be with everyone today, and I want to thank you for taking time, especially on this kind of crazy winter day, so that we can prepare for another great Pathways Institute. So as Cynthia mentioned, we will be focusing on the essential practices associated with Pillar 3, and our theme is keeping students on their pathway. We will have 3 objectives for our time together in April. The first is to help more students make progress in a program of study aligned with their interests, strengths, and aspirations by reimagining and scaling student supports. So I really want to emphasize that we're trying to push our thinking on how to scale student supports. And the second objective is to support student progress in a program of study through adult English literacy, micro-credentials, certificates, degrees, and further education without loss of time or credit. The third objective is to develop and scale supports and processes to enable students to make progress in a program pathway leading to high-demand occupations with family-sustaining wages. So how are we going to do all this? Well, at the Institute, we'll have a chance to examine the data once again. So we're going to look for places where students are gaining and losing momentum as they progress through their pathway. We will analyze strengths, challenges, and opportunities associated with existing student support models and processes. So we want to pull in the student voice into this particular institute in a very meaningful way. We will engage in conversations about how institutional practices have differential impacts on historically minoritized students and how your college can leverage Pathways work to close equity gaps, to continue making progress in this area. And your team will define or refine student support models and processes at your college to help students from multiple entry points make progress along their pathway to their educational and career goals. And then finally, our college teams will produce an action plan to scale systematic supports for students along program pathways through completion. So, who should come to this institute? Just as in years past, we're inviting teams of 7 to join us, and we've identified roles that we think are best suited for this event. Some of our larger college systems may want to bring additional folks, and that's they're welcome, and that can be done at the college's expense. But we really are looking for individuals that can help us think very deeply about the student experience at the institution. Registration is going to open on Monday, so we will send an informational email with a discount code for your college so that you can register your 7 team members. This discount code will waive the hotel fee, the registration fee, and the hotel for the nights of April the 6th and 7th. And the cost of pre-institutes are included in the discount code. Some of you may want to fly in a day early or drive in a day early if you're a long way from Houston so that you can join us for these pre-institutes, and you're welcome to do that. with arrangements with your college. Our registration will be open through March the 7th, and we do have a block of discounted hotel room rates that we will have to release after the 7th. So we can leave our registration link open and live. However, we won't have those hotel rooms, and you'll have to make arrangements individually after that time. We will be at the Hyatt Regency Houston. That's at the downtown location. So we know that when we come together as a learning community, that time that you have with your coach is precious. And we don't take it for granted that you're stepping away from your college campus. So we want each college team to have time to spend one-on-one quality time with your coach. And so I would encourage you to reach out to your coach. They know that you're going to be scheduling a time slot with them. We encourage you to do that before you arrive at the event. So we've set a deadline for March the 30th, and I'm encouraging you to schedule an hour meeting. So if there's a lot of things that you might talk about. I know some colleges have new leadership. So if that's true for your institution, this time might really just be about getting to know each other with the coach learning more about your team and the team learning more about the coach and their expertise. You might want to share some of the emerging priorities of your institution or the work that you're doing through partnership with the Texas Success Center. You might want to talk about the quality enhancement plan as it relates to guided pathways. And of course, celebrate the success that you've had since November on your action plan that you had developed, and perhaps some of the new Pillar 3 practices that you're learning about and how you might embed those in your action plan. And then we encourage you to continue your conversations about increasing equity, using quantitative data and qualitative data so that you can make progress on being more student-centered. I think you might need more than an hour, but please do find time to utilize that expertise. And I want to take this time before I shift over to Agenda at a Glance to welcome our coaches on the call. And I know that they are so excited to spend this time with you as well. So I'd like to introduce you to our plenary speakers and the professional development opportunities that will be offered at the event. Our opening plenary speaker is Dr. Sarah Goldrick-Rab. She is the founding director of the Hope Center for College, Community, and Justice at Temple University in Philadelphia, and she's ranked as one of the 10 top education scholars in the nation. And her innovative research on students' basic needs has sparked the #RealCollege movement that 17 of our Texas colleges are participating in. And then on day 2, Dr. Linda Garcia and Dr. Marisol Garza will kick off this day where we really roll up our sleeves and begin focusing on the student voice and student experience. Dr. Linda Garcia is the executive director for the Center for Community College Student Engagement and one of our esteemed Pathways coaches. And Dr. Marisol Garza is an institutional support consultant at the Trellis Company. On our last day together, Dr. Richard Reddick will push our thinking on building a campus culture of mentorship. Dr. Reddick is the inaugural Associate Dean for Equity, Community Engagement, and Outreach at the College of Education at UT Austin. So this is a wonderful group of speakers and will truly make this event special. And then I'd love for you to consider joining us for our pre-institutes. We will offer 3 this year. The first pre-institute is Transforming Campus Communities for Student Parents, and it's hosted by Generation Hope. So the team at Generation Hope will guide participants through a walk in a student parent's shoes and provide actionable evidence-based strategies for student parent engagement and support. So I would encourage student affairs officers, academic advisors, and institutional leaders to join this session. Our second pre-institute is Holistic Advising, moving from a transactional to a transformational model to better support students. And our esteemed Pathways coach, Krista O'Neill, will lead this engaging session. It will provide an overview of holistic advising with practical applications using the appreciative advising framework to truly connect with students in a way that supports them academically, career-wise, financially, and personally. And this session will also showcase best practices in Texas, including the team from Temple College. And then our third pre-institute, implementing 8-week courses with leader colleges, will be led by our friends at Odessa College, Grayson College, and Kilgore College. So this is open to colleges committing to work with one of these 3 leader colleges through embedded executive coaching and technical assistance to launch and scale 8-week courses as a catalyst for transformational institution transformation. So we're looking to build a cohort for 2022. This is an opportunity funded through a grant partnership with Trellis, and this will be the first step to joining this cohort. So please consider bringing, if you're interested in this, we encourage the CEO to join us, the chief academic officer, and a faculty lead. So there's a lot more detail about all 3 of these institutes that will be showcased on our event webpage. So I want to share a high-level overview of each day with you. The first day will look very familiar. We'll host our pre-institutes in the morning, and lunch will be provided for all attendees joining these 3 workshops. And then for those not coming in for the pre-institutes, we will welcome you at 2 p.m. with our opening plenary speaker, and then dive right into Team Time 1 and enjoy the music from Blinn College at the welcome reception. So we hope you will join us for that welcome reception, and then this might be a good evening for you to go out as a college team or meet with your coach. On day 2, we're going to pump you up with coffee and a beautiful breakfast, and our plenary speakers will set the tone for the day. We'll have 2 team times, and then you'll have the opportunity to attend 2 concurrent sessions. And then we've also set aside networking time with your peers at the Birds of a Feather, which was really highly regarded in our November Institute. I invite you to share with your CEO that Josh Weiner from the Aspen Institute will be leading the Leadership Roundtable, and that will be a wonderful conversation for our CEOs. And then this is typically a night where teams like to go out for dinner, and a great opportunity for team building time. And so there's time in the morning to have breakfast with your coach or to go out in the evening with your coach on this day. And then finally on the last day, again with the coffee and the breakfast, and then we'll have our closing plenary speaker and move into team time number 4. So the whole event is about culminating for this time. So please do, as you're making travel arrangements, plan to spend this dedicated time so that you can move toward action. And then, as you know, we like to learn from each other at the Institute. This is where I hope you will consider sharing the great work happening within your college. So I've put together a call for proposals, and that will go live on Monday. The link to the application is embedded in the informational letter that will be sent out to all pathway leads on the 7th. And so the 5 session topics focus on pillar number 3. The first is advising practices, and these sessions will focus on career and academic advising, recognizing that students need clarity in career choice and effective proactive advising. The second set of sessions will focus on student support systems. So these sessions will focus on how colleges support student mental health and wellness, address basic student needs, and provide financial support. Our third topic is True Texas Pathways supports. These sessions really focus on the supports along our expanding pathways with particular attention to students in continuing education and adult English literacy. So how can we support them along that journey into pathways that lead to credentials and degrees? And then the fourth topic is early interventions. These sessions will focus on systematic identification methods and support mechanisms for struggling students to keep them on track and to keep them on their path. And finally, we'll have sessions focused on culture, building a culture of belongingness and understanding the significance that relationships with our students hold for persistence and successful completion of a post-secondary credential. So these proposals, the application will be closed on March the 4th. So please do reach out to your team members next week to begin discussing what sessions you might like to offer us. And then I just want to offer a few save the dates. I know we talked about the registration, and I think for the call for proposals, I really want to remind you, when you submit on the 4th, we're going to turn that right back around and notify you no later than the 10th of March, because there's spring break in March. So we want to make sure that you have as much time as possible to begin preparing for that session and to share your presentation materials before the event. So Cynthia and Martha, I think y'all are monitoring the chat. Are there any questions about the event at this time that I could answer for us?
No, not any right now. Thank you.
Okay, then it is my pleasure to introduce my colleague, Dr. Martha Ellis, and she's going to set the expectations and walk us through the advanced work.
Thank you, Christine, and it's great to be with friends and colleagues today, and as we prepare together for this event in April. Spoiler alert, you can see the advanced work is, again, a focus group. So we are really looking at infusing the student voice into our time together. And so we're going to be asking you to do some advanced work around that. Of course, we always have pre-readings, and you can see the ones that are listed here. That's for you to share with your teams as well, so that you're prepared to think about the work that we'll be doing together. That does not mean, however, we will not be looking at disaggregated data. You can count on that. We will be looking at disaggregated KPI data, but there's nothing that you have to do to prepare for that. Fortunately, Christina Flores, who is our Director of Research and Evaluation, will be updating the KPIs in the dashboard. So you'll have updated dashboards to look at during your team times and data. So since we're not doing any pulls on quantitative data, we really want to focus on the qualitative data. And that's the advanced work, is the focus group. On Monday on the Texas Success Center events website, you will see a focus group package of information. There are 4 documents. The first is a focus group discussion guide, and that will be your guide for the work. There's 2 student forms, the student consent form and the profile sheet for students. And then there is a focus group report template that you'll be filling out to synthesize and summarize the information that you learn from students as you prepare for our time together in April. So what I'd like to do is walk you through these documents at a high level, and look forward to any questions that you might have as we go through this, as well as at the end. So feel free to put any questions you have in the chat, and we will keep moving. So with the next slide, you will see when you first open up the focus group discussion guide, at the very top, you will see the objectives. There will be 3 that we will all be looking at together. So all of the colleges will be looking at what motivates students, how students perceive the college effectiveness, what we're doing really well, and some areas for improvement. And I also know that many of you do focus groups regularly on your college campuses. So we wanted to provide you with some flexibility of what else you want to explore with your students as you think about keeping them on a path. So there are 5 areas, and you as a college will pick 2 to explore in depth, and that's financial advising, basic needs, mental health, and significance of relationships. So on the next slide, you'll see these 5. that I just listed. So the question for you is, what student voice do you need? For example, if you're already working with the Hope Center or you've done the Trellis survey, you may have a great deal of data about student basic needs already. And so you don't need that in this particular focus group. If you're doing a QEP on advising and you regularly talk to students about advising, you probably don't need to do the focus group on advising. So pick two of the other three to go explore in great detail. Totally up to you. So what do you need as an institution for your next steps in helping students keep on their pathway to completion and success? And what data will help you as you think about your commitment to action for these next steps? So again, you'll just pick two of these five to explore with your students in their focus group. In the discussion guide, you'll see a question bank. The three that are in blue are the three that we will all be looking at. So all of the colleges will look at those three. The five are in green, and again, you will just pick two. And so the questions associated with each of those different objectives are provided next to the objective. And I would like to say thank you to the Center for Community College Student Engagement and also the Meadows Mental Health Policy Institute for helping us in designing these questions to try to get the most we can from your students and to get a good insight into their perception of what is going on in their lives and at your college. So let's get down now to the details of the focus groups. If you're in Cadre 1+ or Cadre 1, we're asking that you do 2 focus group sessions. One would be with what we typically talk about credit students. And the second would be with continuing education. It may be AEL. It may be some technical education that crosses over between credit and continuing ed. That's for you to decide, but 2 unique populations. And also within each of the focus groups, make sure you have a diversity of student population. We don't want all PTK students. Okay, we really want a nice diverse group of students, age, race, program of study, so that it's representative of your student population. And as with most focus groups, you're looking at about 7 to 12 students in each one of the focus groups. For those of you in Cadre 2 and Cadre 3, we are requesting you do 1 focus group. Of course, you can do 2 if you want, but we are asking that you do 1, and you can pick a diverse group of students to include. So include some academic, maybe some dual credit students, maybe continuing ed within that group, but a diverse group, and then also diversity that represents your student population. So Cadre 1+ and 1, do 2, Cadre 2 and Cadre 3, do at least 1. So as you're thinking about that, what are the logistical aspects to consider? All of this is in the discussion guide. You all know this, but just a quick refresher. One thing I always like to say, I know you Pathways leads that are on the call today and other leadership at the college feel this falls on your shoulders. Let me encourage you, you're not responsible for all of this. So don't feel like if you're a Pathways lead, you have to write up the report. Your job in the next week or so, as you start thinking about this, is who will facilitate the focus group? Who's the best person or persons if you're doing multiple focus groups? Who's going to take the notes? Do you want to record it, audio record it or not? And then, of course, who will write up the summary report? So as we go to the next slide, I want to go through the 2 student forms. So the first one is a student consent form. So as you check with your IR office to let them know about this study, they may already have a form that you use at the college for student focus groups. If you have one you regularly use, please feel free to use that form. If you don't have one, we're providing one for you, but we want to make sure that all students do know that they have consent, that the purpose of the focus group, that they are voluntarily participating and can quit at any time, and that this information will be confidential in an aggregate, and so they are protected in that respect. Just change the highlighted part in red and put your college name in. Let me say one other thing. These focus groups can be virtual or face-to-face. And so the student forms that we are providing can be utilized in a digital environment or on a paper and pencil environment. So if you choose to do it virtual on this one, you would just change, it's a Word document now, you can change it to add your college name, save it as a PDF, and they can then they can sign it digitally as a PDF. So make sure that you collect the forms. We don't want to see it at the Success Center. That's for your information at the college. And also make sure that the students receive a copy of the form so that they know their rights and protections. And then the other student forms are the profile sheet for students. We want to get some good demographic information for the students. And you will see that there's one for credit students and one for continuing ed and AEL. So with that in mind, please know that if it's done digitally, all of the radial buttons are live, so students can just click it on and type it in, or it can be done, of course, with paper and pencil as well. Either way, you will collect these because you're going to be using it to gather the information to put in your focus group report. We do not want to see these at the Success Center either. This is just for your information, which leads us to the final document. And that is the focus group report template. So this is where you get to summarize the information that you have learned from your students, the insights that you have gathered from them about their student experience on your campus to help them be successful at the college. And you can see the different elements of the report template. Again, when you look at the report template, you will see all 5 of the optional areas. So you'll see the 3 that are required and all 5. You do not need to respond except to the 2. So feel free to just delete the ones that you're not reporting on so that your report has the 3 common areas, the 2 topics that you looked at in depth, and then synthesize, summarize, of course, select quotes so that you truly capture the student voice when possible. We ask that you share this with the attendees that will be coming, the final report with the attendees that will be coming to the Pathways Institute, including your CEO. And then to submit it to the Success Center's Document Center by, again, March 30th. You've heard that date many times. That is, again, the date that we would like to have this document. And you can send it directly to your Pathways coach, or if you upload it into the Document Center, your Pathways coach will receive it as well. So you can do both or just submit it to the Document Center. So again, that's the only thing that we need from you, the only document that we need from each college is the focus group report. And the reason we're wanting that is so that the coaches can be prepared as well as your teams to use the information from your students in the team times. So here's the timeline briefly. February 4th is today. We're having this conversation. The 7th, the documents will be ready, and the date to report to submit is March the 30th. We go to the next slide. I think visually this shows you what is in store for the next few weeks with your work on this particular assignment. And remember, as Christine mentioned before, there is a spring break in here. So you'll probably want to mark that off and then figure out how you want to pace this so that you can get good information from your students and update the focus report by the March the 30th. So question, dual credit. Mentioned dual credit students. Are they permitted to participate or only if parents sign consent form for those under 18? Yes, so if they're under 18 with dual credit, you will need to work with your IR office as to the work that is being done, as to the processes you have in place for research that's being done with your dual credit students. So please consult your IR office because generally you do need some type of parental signature for those under 18, but your IR office will know. Other questions or feedback? Last fall, we got some great feedback from the Pathways leads during our webinar. We made some adjustments based on your feedback. So we really welcome any feedback or questions that can really help us to have a better experience for you as you work on this focus group experience with your students. As you're working on it, you know how to reach your coaches. So please feel free to reach out to your coaches if there's anything that you need for your focus group work. And of course, we're always here to assist as well. So Christine, I don't see any other questions, so I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Martha. So we went ahead and made a slide that had all of the dates referenced so that you can just have one slide that you can go and populate your calendar or send calendar invites to your team as appropriate for project management. I really don't have a lot to say about this except for that, again, we are here to help you. If you start looking through the materials and have a question, again, please ask your coach. And I also wanted to share my contact information with you. You are more than welcome to reach out to me directly. And we will have, this was a very high level overview. There'll be more information in the informational letter and on our website. So we're so excited. We're doing something a little bit new where we will have a web page for our Texas Pathways Institute with all of our information about our plenary speakers and our Pathways Institutes so that you can share that with your team. So I think we will go ahead and wrap this up. And I just thank you, each of you, for the way that you support this work and your commitment to Texas Pathways. Thank you.
Christine and Martha, just
Yeah.
wondering about incentivizing student participation. Is that's okay? And it's up to the individual college if they do pizza or gift cards? I mean, is there any guidelines on that?
That is totally up to the college. If you do, make sure that that's talked about in the consent form, that they would receive it even if they choose to leave early. But we are not suggesting or recommending. It's totally a college choice and a college decision. I know pizza lunches and pizza are usually the big draw, but again, it's totally up to the college. If you're doing it, virtually or in person, may depend on what type of incentive, if you choose to do so. But thanks, Tina, for asking that question.
Okay, sure.
Mm-hmm. And I would say that's, again, I encourage the Pathways lead to reach out to the IR director with additional questions like dual credit students and what's required and recording students, all of that. Well, we are really excited. This is going to be a wonderful event. We'll have our quantitative data, our qualitative data, our rich conversations. We look forward to seeing you in Houston with beautiful weather.
Thank you all so very much for coming. Looking forward to seeing you. Have a great afternoon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.